How much do you trust them? The animal you call family. This is the moment our trust shattered. Our dog, Max, launching himself straight at my daughter, Lily. That growl, it wasn't his. No, he clamps down, he rips. Stuffing explodes everywhere. My baby is crying, my wife is broken. We saw a monster, but his eyes. What did we see? Was he attacking or protecting? If you have ever believed in an animal's instinct comment, I believe. Don't scroll. You will miss the first clue. And that clue is the key. Life was a predictable, beautiful rhythm of 3 a.m. feedings, the constant sweet smell of baby powder, and the deep, contented exhaustion of new parenthood. And at the center of that perfect life was Max. He wasn't just a dog. He was our first son. A magnificent, goofy golden retriever with a heart twice the size of his massive head. He was Lily's self-appointed big brother. We have hours of video grainy phone footage of Max resting his heavy chin on Sarah's pregnant belly, letting out a low, happy rumble as Lily kicked from within. When we brought her home, he didn't jump or bark. He just investigated. A long, slow sniff of her tiny feet, and then a single gentle lick as if sealing a sacred promise. The trouble started as it so often does with a gift. Sarah's Aunt Clara came to visit. Clara was a lot. One of those people who smiles so wide it looks painful, her voice a permanent high-pitched coo. She bustled in, smelling of strong perfume and hairspray, pinching Lily's cheeks until she cried. And she brought a present, a fluffy, button-eyed teddy bear. The moment Clara leaned over the bassinet to place the bear inside, something changed. A sound rumbled from Max's chest. A low, deep growl that vibrated through the floorboards. It was a sound we had never, ever heard him make. He stood between Clara and the baby, the fur on his back rigid. Max down. I commanded, embarrassed. Sarah laughed it off. Oh, Clara don't mind him. He's just being an overprotective big brother. But Max's eyes never left Clara. Or perhaps they never left the bear. We put the bear in the crib nestled against the railing. It seemed harmless. Cute, even. But Max's behavior began to unravel, thread by thread. He, a dog who lived for mealtime, started leaving his food untouched. The click-clack of his claws on the hardwood floor became a constant restless sound as he paced the hallway outside the nursery. He wouldn't settle. He wouldn't play fetch. He would just stand at the nursery doorway, nose twitching, head cocked, listening. One night I found Sarah scrolling through her phone at 2 a.m., the blue light illuminating her worried face. "Mark," she whispered, "I think he's jealous." It made perfect sense. He was our baby for 5 years. Now this new screaming fragile thing was taking all of our attention. The search history on her phone confirmed it, dog jealous of new baby. Signs of canine aggression towards infants. Rehoming a jealous dog. A cold dread settled in my stomach. We were becoming those people. We decided to try integration. Maybe he just needs to get used to her things, Sarah reasoned. She picked up the new teddy bear from the crib. "Here, Max, look, a new toy." She squeaked its plush belly and tossed it onto the living room floor. Max, who would normally shred a new toy with joy in under a minute, recoiled as if it were a snake. He backed away, barking not a play bark, but a sharp, alarmed warning. He bared his teeth at the toy. "What is wrong with him?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. He loves toys. It was a question we couldn't answer. Why this one toy? Why this sudden obsessive negative fixation? He wasn't just jealous of the baby. He seemed to be terrified for her, but in a way we couldn't understand. His anxiety was a living thing in our home, a constant thrumming tension. We started to close the nursery door, which only made him whine and scratch at the paint, leaving long white gashes in the wood. The breaking point came a week later. We were having a few friends over, a meet the baby brunch. To avoid any incidents, we put Max on his tether in the backyard. The weather was beautiful. He had his water bowl, but I could see the betrayal in his eyes. He sat by the sliding glass door, a silent statue of misery, watching us coo over Lily inside. We were trying to manage the problem by ignoring the source. And then Aunt Clara showed up, unannounced. Just in the neighborhood. Had to see my sweet little angel, she chirped, pushing past me into the house. She went straight for the nursery. Oh, I'll just go check on her. Don't you all get up? Sarah and I exchanged a worried glance. Before we could even stand, Clara was in the nursery. Through the glass door, Max saw her. He didn't just bark. He erupted. He hit the end of his tether with such force, it snapped his head back. He began to howl a desperate, frantic sound. He clawed at the glass, ignoring the pain. He lunged again and again, his paws scrabbling for purchase, his shoulder thudding against the frame. Our friends stared, horrified. My God, one of them muttered. What is with that dog? I ran outside, dragging him back, screaming at him to be quiet. His shoulder was already red and raw from hitting the door. But he wouldn't stop, his eyes fixed on the nursery window. That night, after everyone left, Sarah and I had the fight. He hates Clara, Mark, she cried. He's becoming aggressive and territorial. What if he does that to Lily? The what if hung in the air, toxic and heavy. We agreed, heartbroken, that we needed to call a behavioralist. We were losing control. We never got the chance. It happened 2 days later. It was a normal afternoon, gray, overcast. I was in my home office on a conference call. Sarah was in the nursery with Lily. I heard her singing a soft, tuneless melody as she got Lily ready for a nap. She placed Lily in the crib. The baby, just starting to get fussy, reached out with her chubby fingers. She reached for the familiar object waiting for her, the teddy bear. Sarah turned her back for no more than 5 seconds. She walked to the changing table just across the small room to grab a handful of wipes. 5 seconds. That was all it took. Lily's hand, small and dimpled, wrapped around the bear's plush arm. She was just beginning to lift it towards her face, to that warm, wet mouth where babies put everything. In that instant, the nursery door, which hadn't been latched properly, burst open. Max. He must have been waiting, listening. From his perspective, time must have slowed to a crawl. He didn't see a baby. He didn't see a toy. He saw a threat. A singular, mortal danger that he had been trying to warn us about for weeks. And it was just about to touch his new pack member. He didn't hesitate. He launched himself across the room. The sound was terrifying, a guttural snarl ripped from his throat. Sarah spun around her hand, flying to her mouth, letting out that blood-curdling scream, "Max, no!" He vaulted into the air, his paws clearing the crib railing. He snatched the bear from Lily's grasp. The force of it was violent. The bear's head ripped clean off. White polyester stuffing filled the air. I heard the scream and was in the room in seconds. I saw my wife hysterical, snatching Lily from the crib. My dog on the floor, shaking the life out of the bear's torso, growling with a ferocity I'd never seen. I did the only thing I could think to do. I tackled him. I wrestled him, dragging him by the collar out of the room, his claws scratching protests into the floor. I threw him into the garage and slammed the door. I locked it. I ran back to the nursery. Sarah was rocking Lily, both of them sobbing. He attacked her. She whispered, her face pale with shock. He went for her mark. He tried to bite her. There was no other explanation, no other logical conclusion. Our dog, our gentle Max, had snapped. His jealousy had turned to aggression. While Sarah tried to calm our daughter, I made the call. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely dial. Yes, I need to report an aggressive dog. It attacked my child. The next 15 minutes were the longest of our lives. We sat on the living room sofa, the silence of the house deafening, broken only by the sound of Max occasionally scratching at the garage door. We were waiting for the van from animal control to arrive. Waiting for them to come and take our dog away to a place we knew he might never return from. We were in shock, heartbroken, and consumed by a terrible, sickening guilt. Sarah couldn't sit still. "I have to clean up the mess," she murmured, pulling herself up from the couch. She walked like a zombie back into the nursery. I heard her start to pick up the pieces, the scattered limbs of the bear, the cloud of white stuffing that covered the floor. She was on her hands and knees, trying to restore order to the room that had just been a scene of chaos. Then she made a sound. Not a cry, but a sharp intake of breath. "Ow, Mark." Her voice was thin. I went to the doorway. She was staring at her hands. "My hands, they're burning." She held them up. Her palms and fingers, everywhere she had touched the stuffing, were turning a bright, angry red. Blisters were already starting to form on her skin. I knelt beside her. The stuffing was wet, not with saliva, but with a goopy, sticky substance. And there was a smell. It was faint under the baby powder, but it was sharp, acrid, a biting chemical odor. "What is that?" Sarah asked, her eyes wide with a new kind of fear. She started to rub her hands frantically on her jeans, but it only seemed to make the burning worse. I picked up a piece of the stuffing. I brought it closer to my nose. My blood ran cold. I knew that smell. I knew it. I stumbled out of the nursery and down the hall to the garage. I didn't open the door Max was behind. I opened the storage cabinet on the far wall. And there it was, a half-empty bag of high-concentration rat poison. The kind I used to keep the mice out of the engine block. The bag had a tiny, almost invisible slit near the bottom. I walked back to the nursery, the bag in my hand. Sarah looked at me, her face a mask of confusion and pain. I dropped the bag on the floor next to the pile of poisoned stuffing. We stared at each other. The words came out of my mouth in a hoarse whisper. He wasn't attacking Lily. My vision tunneled. He was attacking the bear. It all clicked into place, a horrifying, sickening mosaic. Max's growl at Clara, his refusal to eat, his constant pacing. He smelled the poison. His frantic barking at the bear, his desperate attempt to get into the house when Clara was in the room alone. He wasn't jealous of the baby. He was trying to protect her from the gift. He wasn't aggressive. He was a hero. But before we could process it, the front door creaked open. Clara. She had let herself in with her spare key, her face a mask of forced concern, until she saw us in the nursery, the spilled poison bag, the stuffing scattered like evidence. Sarah Mark. What's going on? I heard screaming. Her eyes darted to the bare remnants, then to the poison bag. Panic flashed subtle, but I saw it. Her hand twitched toward her purse. Clara, what did you do? I said, voice low and steady. She froze. Then in a blur she bolted. She shoved past Sarah, knocking her into the wall, and sprinted for the front door. The chase was on. Clara, stop! I yelled. I lunged after her, heart pounding, adrenaline surging. Sarah scooped up Lily, screaming for me to be careful. Clara burst through the front door, her heels clattering on the porch steps. She sprinted across the lawn toward her car, parked on the street, keys already in hand, jangling like a death knell. Neighbors peeked from windows, phones out, filming the madness. I vaulted the porch railing, feet pounding the grass. Clara reached her car, fumbling the door. But then a blur of gold exploded from the garage side door. I'd left it cracked in my haste. Max, he'd clawed his way free, the lock splintered from his desperate scratches. Max charged like a freight train, not barking, but low growling with laser focus. He cut Clara off at the driveway, circling her car, herding her back toward the house. She screamed, dropping her keys, backing away with hands raised. Get that dog away from me, Mark. Call him off. But Max didn't attack. He just stood between her and escape, eyes, locked body tense, a living barrier. I caught up, breathing hard, grabbing her arm before she could bolt again. It's over, Clara. The bear. The poison. We know. Sirens wailed in the distance. Sarah had called 911 during the chaos. Clara crumpled, sobbing, her mask shattering. She has everything, the job, the husband, the baby. I just wanted her to hurt like I hurt cops. Arrived seconds later, cuffs clicking. As they led her away, she glanced back at Max, not with hate, but defeat. Max sat calmly, tail thumping once, as if to say, threat neutralized. We ran. We scrambled over each other, fumbling with the lock on the garage door. I threw it open. Max wasn't scratching anymore. He was huddled in the farthest corner behind the lawnmower, trembling. He looked up at us, his eyes filled with a profound, heartbreaking confusion. He thought he was being punished for saving our lives. Sarah let out a sob and collapsed, wrapping her arms around his neck. Oh, Max. Oh, buddy, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. We called animal control and told them to stop. Then we called the police. The investigation was short. Our security cameras, the ones we'd set up to be baby monitors, told the whole story. Footage from 2 days prior, when Aunt Clara had stopped by, showed her going into the nursery, then slipping into the garage. It showed her returning carefully, stuffing the poison deep inside the bear's seams, using a syringe from her work bag, her face twisted in quiet rage. When questioned, she collapsed. Her confession was a pathetic story of bitter, corroding jealousy over our perfect life. She knew I kept the poison in the garage. She knew babies put everything in their mouths. And she knew a stuffed animal was the perfect Trojan horse. What she didn't count on, what none of us counted on, was the sixth sense of a 70-pound golden retriever. He smelled death. He smelled the chemical we were blind to. And he spent weeks trying to warn us, his anxiety growing, as the poison scent leached further into the plush. When he finally attacked, it wasn't an attack at all. It was an intervention. It was the only way his canine mind knew how to remove the threat. He broke all the rules. He became the monster for 3 minutes so he could save the most vulnerable member of his pack. Life in our home is different now. The silence is gone, replaced by the happy jingle of Max's collar. Sarah's hands healed. Aunt Clara is facing prosecution, and Max is back where he belongs. He's lying on the nursery floor right now, his big golden head resting just inches from the crib, his tail thumping softly against the leg of the rocking chair. We watch the security footage now, not with horror, but with a profound, chilling gratitude. We came so close. We were seconds away from a tragedy, and seconds away from euthanizing the very soul who saved us. We almost threw away our most loyal protector simply because we couldn't understand his language. Max taught us the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes the most profound love isn't shown with a gentle lick or a happy bark. Sometimes true love, true loyalty, is shown with a growl and a chase that stops evil in its tracks.